Before we begin our story tonight, I invite you to do something simple, yet essential. Turn off the lights. Adjust your pillow until it feels like a cloud made just for you, if you can. Slow down the rhythm of your space, a soft lamp, a fan with that lulling hum, a window cracked open just enough for the breeze to slip in quietly. This isn't a story meant to be understood. It's a story meant to be felt with your eyes closed, to cradle your mind until it gently powers down, like a lantern forgotten at the end of a hallway. Tonight, we'll walk through an ancient place, slowly. The words will come gently, like fine rain rocking weary rooftops. So take a deep breath, let go of the weight of the day, and prepare not to reach the end of the story, because this is a story made for sleeping inside. Hello everyone. Tonight we're going to take a gentle stroll through the drizzle of time, drifting back, way back, before modern umbrellas, before those clumsy ones that flip inside out with a gust of wind, and even before people realized that getting soaked might not be such a great idea. Yes, tonight, you're going to slowly float through the mist surrounding the invention of the Chinese. Umbrella, an object so deeply poetic that it has survived over 1,000 years, doing nothing more than keeping heads dry. Picture this. You're in Luoyang, around the year 25 AD. It's early morning. The air carries a faint scent of wet stone and steaming rice. You're standing on a stone road, glistening under a drizzle so delicate it feels more like a polite suggestion than real rain. Shops are just beginning to open. Someone is sweeping their doorstep with a bundle of reeds, and everyone has soaked shoulders, except one person, a scholar, walking slowly, almost proudly deliberate, beneath the shimmering paper circle stretched over bamboo ribs. It's not flashy. In fact, it's almost laughably simple. But that's exactly what makes it special. It's the earliest version of a Chinese sand, the umbrella that would slowly evolve into both a utilitarian tool and an elegant cultural relic. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to comment where you're listening from and what time it is there. We've had people from Bangkok to Buenos Aires, all drifting off to sleep under the same dreamy sky. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first careful step through the streets of ancient Luoyang. The drizzle softens your hair. The road smells of earth and honesty. You're in the heart of the Han Dynasty, where silk is treasure and emperors still read omens in the stars. Paper is a recent marvel, invented just decades ago, and already being used in ways no one imagined, like in this umbrella, which rustles softly as the scholar adjusts it. People look with enmity, but with that quiet curiosity that always follows something new. There are whispers that this artifact came from the south, where rain is as certain as taxes, but no one really knows. Historians still debate whether the invention truly began in the Han Dynasty, or if its roots stretch further back into mystery. Some even link it to ceremonial canopies used in funeral rites of long-lost dynasties. You follow the scholar to a small tea house, where the smell of toasted sesame lazily floats through the air. He closes the umbrella with both hands, gently twisting the bamboo until it collapses. It folds like a flower at sunset. Quiet, modest, you sit beside him. He speaks little, but gestures kindly for you to warm yourself by the charcoal brazier. You notice his umbrella is lightly stained with indigo, perhaps from his robe's dye, perhaps from the rain. Hard to tell, but the elegance is undeniable. No broken ribs, no loose threads. Later, you stroll through a market where whispers about this new invention are already beginning to spread. A merchant offers a clumsy version, paper too thin, ribs too stiff. Another tries silk, and it droops like a sleepy fish. But progress is slow and steady. No one's in a rush, because, let's be honest, this isn't exactly life-saving technology. It's just a clever way to stay dry. Still, for something so simple. The umbrella begins weaving itself into the fabric of society. Court officials request them in imperial yellow. Temple processions begin to include them, not for practicality, but for symbolism. You see one floating above a shrine, casting a round shadow over a statue of Guanyan. It looks less like an accessory and more like a halo. Then it hits you. You are witnessing a quiet revolution, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't clash, doesn't explode. It simply unfolds. And all of this happens under a sky so gray and soothing it could lull a tiger to sleep. You walk even more slowly now. The damp ground of Luyang turns into a glistening mosaic of silvery reflections. Each step makes a subtle shuffle of straw sandals on wet stone. The fog thickens slightly, wrapping rooftops in soft layers, like sheep's wool and the wind. It blows so gently it seems to apologize for tousling your hair. You turn a corner and find a narrow side street, almost hidden behind a stall selling dried fruit and gourds. This is where the secret of the umbrella lives, not in palaces or court halls, but among mud walls and crooked wooden doors. Mr. Lin's workshop. He's inside, sitting cross-legged like a living stone at the center of a makeshift temple of patience. The smell of the place is an earthy mix of pine smoke, plant resin, and damp paper. A scent that's hard to describe, but one you won't forget. Mr. Lin is old, not kindly old, but could be a disguised spirit old. His hair is tied in a low bun, and the skin of his hands looks like parchment folded too many times. He's in the middle of splitting a bamboo stalk with a blade that seems more like an extension of his own hand. You step closer, and he slowly raises his eyes, then returns to his task. No words, just a vague gesture for you to sit beside him. You do, of course. Who would argue with a man who seems to know more about rain than the sky itself? He takes a freshly split stalk and begins, smoothing it with a piece of pumice. The wood sings softly with each pass. Bamboo must want to bend, he murmurs, as if speaking to the material itself. You don't force it, you listen. You watch as he ties the ribs with a mulberry fiber cord. The rhythm is hypnotic. 1, 2, 3. Knot, loop, tighten. Each rib is polished, adjusted, touched, as if it were part of a musical instrument about to be played. Then he shows you the paper. But this is not just any paper. It's wild mulberry paper, extracted from the white, spongy bark of the tree, then pounded, washed, and sun-dried. The process takes days, and even then, it's not over. The paper is soaked in tung oil pressed from the tiny seeds of a tree that only grows in the southern hills. The result? A water-resistant paper, translucent like white jade, with a subtle scent of toasted nuts and wet earth. "This is how you create a leaf that speaks with rain," he says, and a shiver runs up your neck, not from cold, but from admiration. He opens a finished umbrella. The movement is slow, almost solemn. The ribs slide like bird bones opening to sunlight, and when the fabric stretches, you hear a gentle sound, a kind of silk handwood sigh. The surface is decorated with hand-painted swirls, blue, green, purple, soft colors, as if diluted in mist before touching the paper in the corner of the workshop. A woman, probably his sister, or perhaps Mr. Lin's wife. No one knows for sure, sitting on a low stool, painting plum blossoms on another stretched canopy. She uses no sketches, just brush, ink, and muscle memory. Each petal looks as if it's being blown by the wind before it even dries. "Winter flowers," she remarks without looking up. "They can only be painted when the day has fewer than 10 hours of sun. Otherwise, they become too sad." You don't exactly understand what that means, but it makes sense. Somehow, a young apprentice is working at the other end of the workshop. He's about 12, trying to assemble the folding mechanism. The system requires tiny, rotating wooden joints, cords, and far more patience than he clearly has. You watch as he tries to open a model for the 4th time. The structure collapses. Mr. Lin just raises an eyebrow, as if to say, "Nothing in life is few. Step in to help." You hold one of the ribs, gently turn the joint, and the umbrella finally opens with a soft clock. Imperfect, crooked, but functional. A near circle. The apprentice smiles, and you, maybe for the first time in days, feel proud of helping something bloom with such simplicity. Historians still debate whether the first folding umbrellas appeared in southern China or were inspired by shade contraptions. "Used in religious processions," Mr. Lin comments, almost as if reading your thoughts, but that hardly matters. What matters is that it rains, and someone wanted to keep walking. You spend the afternoon there, learning how to glue the paper edges with rice paste, testing hinges made of shells, and watching as each part becomes shelter. Finished umbrellas are hung upside down from the ceiling, like exotic fruits ripening in reverse. When you finally leave, the sky is grayer, but strangely welcoming. The umbrella you carry makes a faint noise when it opens, like a book of poetry stretching after a long nap. And as you walk back to the market, you take a deep breath and think how funny it is that something so simple, made of paper and wood, can turn a rainy day into a quiet celebration of craft, color, and human patience. The rain keeps falling, but now you barely notice it. Perhaps it's the umbrella now, your faithful walking companion, that has created this particular bubble of calm around you. Or maybe it's simply that your body has begun to slow down. The whole world seems to sigh with you at every step. And up ahead appears what looks like a procession of Caleza narrow street, completely adorned with dyed fabrics and open umbrellas hanging above. Like rain lanterns. You enter as one enters a sanctuary only, instead of incense. The air is thick with the sense of natural dyes, indigo leaves, pomegranate peels, saffron, and red clay. Everything mingles with the day's moisture. It's an open-air exhibition, a celebration not of function, but of aesthetics. Because, as you now learn, Umbrellas in ancient China were much more than protection from inconvenient drops. They were portable seasons. A man with a long beard and eyes, small as sesame seeds, approaches you. He speaks as if he has an open book lodged in his throat. Spring, he says, pointing to a pale green umbrella decorated with small buds and branches. The color of budding jade, of hope and renewal, the time when wood stretches and birds return to song. Beside it, a model in deep red with golden accents. Summer, he says, already anticipating your question. Not just the heat of the sun, but the heat of the blood, the heart, love and expansion. Nobles wore red not just for status, but for superstition. It was an invisible shield against evil spirits and criticism. And then a third, yellow, slightly coppery, like leaves about to fall. Autumn, he murmurs, the time of harvest, of moderation. Yellow represents earth, balance, neither cold nor hot, the season of sad poets and glutinous rice cakes. Finally, he points to a pearl-white umbrella, nearly translucent, decorated with small flake patterns, painted with feather tips. Winter, he whispers, as if afraid to awaken the season. Silence, retreat, the snow that covers everything equally, the color of emptiness, full of promise. You hold each umbrella for a moment, and it's surprising how the colors, even faded by time and rain, still seem to carry intention. Blue is not just bluets, the blue of a frosty morning, red pulses, yellow whispers, and white. Ah, white silences. In the Tang court, the old man says umbrellas were offered during seasonal change ceremonies, each one hand-painted with specific symbols. Plum blossoms for winter, lilies for summer, not just decoration, visual codes, a language made to be read above the head. Historians still debate whether this practice of seasonal codes was truly universal or just a passing fashion among the wealthier families of Chang'an. Some records suggest that peasants simply used whatever colors of dye were available. And honestly, who could blame them? You keep walking among the suspended umbrellas and notice the details. Some have golden threads sewn along the edges. Others are inscribed with calligraphic poetry, simple verses about rain falling on bamboo leaves, about the feeling of being alone but not lonely beneath the protection of well-oiled paper. Children run among the colors, playing hide-and-seek under the umbrellas as if they were tents from a peaceful army. An elderly lady smiles, seeing you stand there, clearly enchanted by it all. The right color brings harmony, she says, but be careful. Using the wrong color in the wrong season attracts the eyes of the gods and colds. You laugh, unsure if it's superstition, irony, or both. Then you meet a young artisan applying blue dye to a new model. He works slowly, dipping the brush into a shell bowl, then spinning the umbrella on a stone turntable. The effect is hypnotic, like watching a star being born. Some think it's just painting, he comments, without looking up. But the colors must match the owner. I once saw an umbrella fall apart just because a man insisted on wearing black in summer. Black in summer. It was like trying to bake bread inside your own umbrella. You take your leave with a smile and a bow. The street of colors ends in a small archway decorated with peach blossoms. As you pass beneath it, you feel like you've crossed more than a street. You've crossed into a sensibility, a silent code of culture that says, even the seasons can fit in the palm of your hand, and around you the rain still falls, but now each drop seems to play a note in a gentle symphony. One in green, another in red, then yellow, white. You keep walking, now with steps slower than ever, as if the ground itself had become softer beneath your feet. The umbrella you carry, a hand-painted autumn model, in toasted yellow with small maple leaves, makes a soft crackle as it opens and closes, as if whispering secrets about time and tradition. And here, in this part of the village, is where you learn something few people outside of ancient China knew. Opening an umbrella wasn't just a practical matter, it was an art, an etiquette, a near theatrical ritual of balance, grace, and precision. You're standing before a woman with a posture so upright she looks like a living porcelain statue. She's demonstrating the correct way to open a dyed silk umbrella. No shaking, pushing, or flinging it open like a lost tourist in a Hong Kong typhoon. No, there's a proper gesture, a proper timing, even a proper breath. She holds the umbrella with both hands, as one might hold a fragile secret. One hand grips the shaft, the other loosens the linen string that keeps the fabric wrapped. Then a twist, small, almost imperceptible, just enough to let the ribs release. And then comes the most delicate moment, the lifting of the dome. It's done with the thumb and index finger of the dominant hand, while the other stabilizes the axis. You try to imitate her, of course, and fail. Your umbrella opens with a sharp snap. A rib pops out of its seam, and you nearly hit a startled pigeon mid-flight. The woman sighs softly, with less force, more like you're blooming a blind flower. You laugh. She doesn't, but there's kindness in her eyes that says you're not the first to get it wrong. Probably not even the 100th. This elegant opening practice was common among the upper classes, especially court ladies and scholars. A clumsy opening could be interpreted as rudeness, disrespect, a lack of refinement. In certain circles, opening an umbrella the wrong way was as offensive as slurping soup. You now watch a young man, perhaps a library assistant or a scribe, performing the movement perfectly. The umbrella unfolds in a flawless arc. The silk vibrates gently. It's like watching a drop fall onto the calm surface of a lake. Historians still debate whether these etiquette rules were codified in conduct manuals or evolved naturally through social observation. Says an old man sitting on a nearby cushion. He holds a black umbrella decorated with silver designs, too elegant for someone who's apparently only there to comment. You sit near the group and observe the various techniques. Some open theirs with a flick of the wrist, others with eyes closed, feeling the tension in the ribs as if tuning a musical instrument. You begin to understand that the Chinese umbrella was not just an object. It was an extension of the body, an artistic gesture, a silent display of self-control, and, perhaps most importantly, a walking metaphor for how to deal with the world with calm, care, and a touch of vanity. In one corner, a child tries to imitate the adults, holding an umbrella much larger than herself. She stumbles, spins, falls back with a smile. Her father laughs, her mother helps her up, and together they practice. It's a beautiful sight, a small heritage passed on not with rigidity, but with joy. And maybe that's what keeps traditions alive. the ability to laugh at oneself while trying suddenly. A woman with a deep blue umbrella begins spinning it slowly over her shoulder. She walks in a circle, almost dancing. Each of her steps is accompanied by the fluid movement of the fabric swirling, waving as if it wanted to take flight. You discover this gesture was common at festivals, a graceful way to draw attention without saying a word. Sometimes a flirtation, other times a silent statement of belonging to a season, a region, or a state of mind. You try to spin yours. The shaft slips, nearly hits your own leg. The same silver-bearded elder sighs. Don't force it, he says. You don't spin the world, you spin with the world. You make a mental note of the phrase, even knowing you'll forget it before dinner. Later, seated in a covered pavilion, you watch an informal performance. 3 women, each with an umbrella of a different season, perform a slow sequence of choreographed movements. The umbrellas open, close, spin, lower, rise, all unhurried. It's like a rain ballet, and the music, there is none, only the sound of your own thoughts slowing down. You close your eyes for a moment and smell vegetable oil, mingled with damp dust and indigo dye. You open your eyes. It's raining harder now, but you don't mind. You walk even slower, now, if that's even possible. The rain has thickened, but in a gentle way, as if the sky were pouring cups of warm tea instead of water. And it's at this moment that you discover something new, the sound of rain hitting. The oiled paper of your umbrella is perhaps one of the most relaxing pieces of music humankind has ever created. Each drop that strikes the paper surface makes a light, almost shy sound. It's not the harsh tapping of metal or plastic. It's more like fingers gently touching the keys of a guzheng, that traditional Chinese instrument that looks like a zither that has spent years meditating. The umbrella turns the rain into background music for a film you didn't even know you were in. You stop in a garden. There are stone benches, small gravel paths, and twisted trees that seem to be napping under the weight of the years. And right there, sitting as if he were part of the landscape, is a very old man with an umbrella fully open over him, even though he's already under a bamboo awning. You think about asking why, but you don't want to break the silence, so you simply sit on the opposite bench. The sound of rain on both umbrellas fills the space between you. Each drop blends into the next, creating a hypnotic pattern that seems to say, nothing else is urgent. After some time, it could have been minutes or hours. It doesn't matter. He speaks. When it rains like this, the world slows down, and so should the mind. But we, fools, rush. You nod, slowly, and you think about how you're finally allowing yourself to walk at the pace of the rain, instead of fighting against it. The old man pulls a short bamboo flute from his robe and plays a melody so soft you have to hold your breath to hear it. It's not stage music, it's wind music that got lost and found shelter for a moment. He stops playing, but he doesn't close the umbrella. You understand, it's not to protect from the rain, it's to hear it better. Right then and there, you test your own umbrella as if it were an instrument. You tilt it slightly to one side. The sound changes to the other side. Now the drops sound like tiny steps on dry leaves. You begin tilting it at different angles, like a very slow maestro conducting a water orchestra. Historians, always keen to turn poetry into thesis, still debate whether the specific design of Chinese umbrellas was intended to optimize the sound of rain or if it was a happy acoustic accident. But many ancient accounts mention the sonic pleasure as part of the experience, especially among monks and artists. Some even recommended listening to the rain as a form of meditation. You begin to understand why. You rise from the bench and walk through a corridor covered in wisteria, the flowers hanging like silent bells. At the end, there's a small tea house. The door is open. You step inside. The scent is of roasted tea and dried tangerine. A woman serves 2 cups, one for you and another for no one in particular. The second is for good thoughts, she says, with a lazy smile. You sit near the window. The sound of the rain still plays on your umbrella, now resting against the wall, dripping into a clay dish placed precisely for that purpose. Yes, there is a clay dish just to catch the drops from the umbrella. And of course, every home has one. It's as common as a napkin holder. You watch the drops falling from the oiled fabric at nearly regular intervals. Plop, 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 a metronome of serenity. You sip the tea slowly and listen. One drop hits the edge of the dish. Another slips and hits the floor. The sound echoes softly across the wooden floor. A third lands on the umbrella's handle and slides down like a sustained note. You think about how each umbrella has its own sound, its own sonic personality. Maybe it's the type of paper. Maybe the tension of the ribs. Maybe the soul of the artisan who made it. You close your eyes and the sound continues. You awaken from that near trance as one returns from a particularly light dream, not a dream full of symbols and mysteries, but the kind where you simply walk slowly through a beautiful place, unhurried, without purpose. Outside, the rain has eased. The drops have grown more spaced, like a drum that's tired of playing. You say goodbye to the tea house with a shy bow. The woman replies with a gentle hand gesture, as if brushing away a bad thought or welcoming good winds. And so, with your autumn umbrella once again open above you, you continue walking until you come upon what looks like a garden, but with fewer flowers and more order. It's a wide space with low walls and a hard-packed earth floor. In the center, a wooden structure rises on 4 pillars, like a ceremonial altar. Around it, rows of umbrellas are arranged in a spiral, all open, all aligned, with almost military precision, but no one is guarding them. Just the sound of birds and a breeze that seems to ask for silence. A young woman approaches, dressed in a deep blue robe with a hairstyle that resembles a phoenix's tail. She holds a white umbrella with lilac edges, the color of serenity. You learn. She doesn't say much, only explains in a soft voice. This is the noble's space. Here, the umbrellas tell old stories and guard secrets. You walk among the circles, and on each umbrella there's something different. One has red silk tassels that sway like flames in the wind. Another is painted with a scene from an imperial garden, complete with koi fish and cherry trees. There's an umbrella in nearly black violet, embroidered with golden threads, shaped like clouds used, the young woman says, by a Tang dynasty princess who claimed to have married the moon. You ask if these stories are real. She replies, they're real, enough to be remembered, and that's enough. Some umbrellas have cursive calligraphy inscriptions. One reads, "Sacred shade for those who walk slowly." Another, the rain doesn't choose color, but the soul does. And a third, more worn, silence and paper. Make good company. You pause in front of a silver umbrella with small mirrors glued around the edge. The young woman explains that one reflected the Empress's face when she was a child. It was only used during solstice festivals. You try to imagine the impact these pieces had when first seen parading in silent processions, protecting figures who were never unprotected. It wasn't just about shade or shelter, it was status, symbolism, sometimes even prophecy. In the time of the Han dynasty, she continues, there were rankings for the umbrellas used at court, the size, the color, the number of ribs all coded. A mistake, and you could be accused of insolence. Historians still debate whether these rules were strictly followed or were more idealized than practical. Some court inventory records show hundreds of umbrellas in stock, all duly recorded with dates, colors, even notes on the owner's mood. On the day of delivery, you picture yourself as one of those nobles, holding your umbrella with impeccable posture, walking silently through stone corridors, accompanied only by the sound of your own footsteps and the rustle of paper shifting. In the wind, the young woman then shows you one final umbrella, this one kept under a glass dome, like a relic. The silk is petroleum blue, darkened with time, and there's a nearly faded image of a dragon winding through clouds. This one, she says, belonged to the last emperor of the Song dynasty before the Mongol invasion. They say he held it when he said farewell to the throne. You gaze in silence. The image of the dragon almost blends into the fabric. It seems to float, and for a moment you think the umbrella didn't just shield a man from rain, it held his dignity, his memory, his final shadow. You give a nod of thanks and slowly walk away. The path back is lined with small lanterns, lit even in daylight, and as you pass by them, your umbrella casts moving shadows on the walls. They seem to dance, and you smile, because, without even realizing it, you've learned to walk like a noble slowly, attentively, and with the umbrella open, not just above your head, but also over your heart. The path winds away from the noble's garden, taking you along a gravel trail that makes a soft sound underfoot, like brown sugar being gently stirred in a ceramic bowl. The sky is still overcast, but now it has a different texture, like damp cotton or a pillow that's spent too long in the sun. There's a diffused light that makes everything look older, slower, more worthy of contemplation. You round a bend, and ahead of you is a small, modest structure made of dark wood with a veranda overlooking an unhurried lake. On the veranda sit 3 figures, all with brushes in hand, all leaning over sheets of paper, each with an umbrella open beside them. One looks up and smiles. Came to write with us. You hesitate, but of course you do. They are part of a circle of poets, not a club exactly, but a tradition. Men and women who, for generations, have used the shelter of umbrellas as small, portable studios. An umbrella, after all, is the minimum you need to create your own world. And if the sky cooperates, it even helps keep the poems dry. You sit and receive a sheet of rice paper, already pinned down with stone weights at the edges. Your umbrella settles over you, and suddenly the light rain returns. It pats gently on the oiled paper above your head. The sound is perfect, a lazy rhythm that sets the pace for thought. "Don't think too much," says one of the women. "Write like you're speaking to the sky." And then she returns to her calligraphy, her strokes more like dancing than writing. You try. Not out of vanity or a desire to impress, but because there's something natural about writing in the rain. The ink runs a little, the line hesitates, but every word you write feels as if it's been rinsed before being born in front of you. One of the poets, a thin man, with eyes like dry leaves, reads aloud. The rain arrives in haste, but stays with calm. The umbrella doesn't shelter time, only the memory of what didn't get wet. You smile, and you write your own attempt. Something about the way the drops run down the ribs like they're sliding from branches. Something about the scent of plant oil now soaked into your clothes. Something about the sound. One of the poets remarks, in the Thames, dynasty poetry contests could only be held under light rain. That was the rule. If the sun came out, the contest was cancelled. You don't know if it's true, but you decide you'd like to believe it. Historians still debate whether these poetic gatherings were truly common practice among scholars, or just one of those stories embellished by those who desperately want the past to have been more beautiful than it really was. But in this moment, seated beneath your own world of paper and bamboo, you feel that beauty doesn't have to be factual to be real. At the lake's edge, a willow tree sways slowly, a duck floats with dignity, and silently someone pours a jasmine flower infusion into a cracked teapot, as if there were no hurry for the world to start spinning again. You keep writing, and the rain continues. One drop here, another there. No urgency, no thunder, just the sweet repetition of a weather that understands that sometimes the most valuable time is the one in which absolutely nothing happens. By late afternoon, when the clouds withdraw with the elegance of a veil being folded, you tuck your sheet of paper into a waxed cloth cover. It wasn't perfect, but it was yours. You thank the poets, who only nod as if to say, it's okay. What matters is that you wrote, and you believe them. Because perhaps the greatest gift of the Chinese umbrella isn't avoiding the rain, but giving shelter to words still looking for a place to be born. You stand, and under the umbrella, the last drops slip to the ground like loose musical notes. The sun, shy as a distracted monk, begins to appear between the clouds, not in a rush, nor with force, but with that gentle light that crosses the sky as if it didn't want to disturb. You walk toward a clearing, still holding your autumn umbrella, now more out of habit than necessity. It has become an extension of you, like a cane that never touches the ground, or an idea you forgot to forget. Just ahead, you find a circular space of smooth stones, arranged with near ceremonial precision. In the center, a group of people moves, slowly, like leaves in a gentle whirl. You observe from a distance, and it doesn't take long to realize this is a tea ceremony, but not just any ceremony. This one takes place outdoors, and everyone, including the tea master, is holding an open umbrella. You approach. An elderly woman, with eyes small and round like soybeans, invites you with a calm gesture. She hands you a straw cushion and a small bowl of matte clay. The tea has not yet been served. First, there is silence. All the umbrellas are of different colors. One is sky blue, another the color of ripe plum. There's one in pale green, like jasmine, tea, and even one painted with waves. an obvious homage to summer. The harmony of colors helps prepare the spirit, murmurs the woman. Each season has its flavor, and each umbrella its intention. You feel that you are taking part in something ancient, something that began before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. The tea ceremony itself is already an exercise in slowness, but with umbrellas it reaches another level of delicacy. It's not just about drinking, it's about preparing space, color, shadow, and sound. You realize that the sound of the rain has completely stopped. What you hear now is the trickle of tea from an iron kettle into a bamboo ladle, then into the bowl, and finally onto your lips. It's warm, slightly bitter, and deeply comforting, like a letter you receive from a friend who only writes when they have something important to say in the past, says the woman. Tea was served under umbrellas during ceremonies of mourning and celebration. It was a way to balance the shadow of pain with the color of memory. The umbrella, in that case, didn't protect from the sky, but from haste. You look around and notice small ink dishes beside each bowl. A young woman with long braids begins to paint a floral pattern on the edge of her umbrella as she waits for the tea to cool. Another man writes a single word, rain, in calligraphy so detailed it looks like a cloud embroidered in ink. You're invited to do the same. You pick up the brush, dip it into the red ink, and hesitate. Then you decide to paint 3 small dots, nothing more, just 3 drops. Someone smiles upon seeing it. Ah, they say, 3 drops of silence. You like that more than you'd like to admit. Historians still debate whether the use of umbrellas in outdoor tea ceremonies was a standardized practice among tea schools or merely a regional tradition among families in southern China, where rain is more frequent than good humor. But what you feel here is that, real or invented, it makes sense. Everything does, the tea ends, but no one rushes to leave. You stay there, looking at the top of your umbrella, where the sun now dances in golden reflections. Each stitch, each brushstroke, each drop that fell before, it's all there, etched like a diary only you can read, and then you realize they are portable capsules of time and intention, like a frame you carry to capture the world. In your own way, you rise, bow, and move on, with tea in your belly and peace in your step. You follow a narrow path where the stones are too smooth for your feet, as if they had been polished by generations of distracted passersby. To your left, a bamboo hedge whispers with the wind, and to your right, a small stream reflects the dull sky like a shy mirror. Soon you find a small village within the villagia collection of tents and stalls covered by colorful cloths, where everything seems to vibrate with a light and curious energy. Here, the focus is no longer royalty, nor poetry, nor tea. It's superstition. And the umbrella, of course, plays a central role in even that. You stop in front of a stall where a middle-aged man holds an umbrella with a crooked handle and an expression that says he believes in everything. With reservations, he smiles when he sees you, looking for protection against bad luck or just style for cloudy days. You smile back, uncertain. He's already speaking again. In our tradition, he says, spinning the umbrella like a magician about to reveal a rabbit. Each painted symbol has a function. Koi fish ward off bad news. Blooming peach trees protect against betrayal. And if you've got one with a three-legged dog, that one prevents you from marrying the wrong person. You ask, with natural skepticism, if it works. It worked for me, he replies, pointing to himself 3 times. Further ahead, you find a woman selling small charms made to hang from the tips of the ribs. One is a tiny turtle, another a painted eye. She explains that these amulets help attract good luck or, at least, distract envious spirits. An envious spirit loves to see itself in a little mirror, thinks it's another spirit, goes away to argue with itself. You almost buy one, but get distracted by an old man painting words beneath the canopy of a large red umbrella. Right shoulder for luck, left for health, he says. If you open it on the wrong side, don't say I didn't warn you. You notice he's surrounded by umbrellas with mysterious black ink inscriptions. Some you recognize, words like prosperity, longevity, wisdom. Others are more enigmatic, like walking slowly brings favorable winds, or the dry path exists only for those afraid to get wet. You ask if he believes in all of it. Of course not, he replies. But I believe that believing feels good. Historians still debate whether umbrella superstitions originated from folk religion, practical Taoism, or were just good excuses to sell more models during seasonal festivals. What's certain is that these beliefs still appear in ancient manuscripts, especially those from southern China, where the mix of rain and mysticism has always been fertile. You see a group of children playing a game that involves spinning an umbrella, letting it stop, and then guessing what will happen the next day based on the direction of the main rib. A small walking oracle, improvised with laughter and mud. A grandmother watches with a tender look and says, if it lands north, prepare tea early. If it lands west, today's a good day to leave the doors open. You note it mentally, not out of necessity, but because it feels like the kind of wisdom you'll want to use someday, or at least pretend to know, when you've got free time and want to impress someone with completely useless knowledge. Before leaving, you return to the stall of the man with the symbols. He hands you a small, hand-drawn catalog with the most common meanings. No need to choose now. The umbrella chooses you, always. You fold the catalog carefully and tuck it into your pocket. Your own umbrella, now with small mud stains on the edges, feels quieter, more like a companion, as if it had heard everything and approved most of it. You leave the fair of fortune with a slight nod, carrying nothing in your hands, just a thought. The world may not be governed by symbols, ... but they make life a lot more fun. The trail now stretches out, leading you away from the village toward a more open road flanked by tea fields and low woods, where the air smells of wet leaves and a gentle vegetal temps. The silence here is broader, filled only by birds that seem to repeat phrases of the wind, and every now and then the distant sound of a ceremonial drum being played somewhere you are not, and that is perfectly fine. You are on your way to Chengdu, or at least to a village that calls itself a daughter of Chengdu, where nearly lost traditions of umbrella making are still kept alive. A man on an ox cart offers you a ride, and you accept, not because you're tired, but because you want to feel time slow down even more. During the ride, he says little, but what he does say sticks. Here, we don't make umbrellas, we let them be born. You don't ask what that means. You just Watch the road change. When you arrive, the village seems to breathe bamboo. It's everywhere, growing, drying, cut, carved. On improbably high clotheslines, oiled papers sway like flags of a country that only exists when it rains. Here, entire families still make umbrellas as if they were musical instruments, and you soon realize this is a place where little is said, but much is done. Children cut paper edges with precision. Grandfathers bend ribs with fingers curved by time. Women dip brushes into pigments made from groundstone and fermented leaves. A young man approaches proudly. Our style was brought to Japan, you know. The umbrellas you see in Kyoto, many were born here. You walk into a larger workshop where a man in a brown tunic shows you an old map with trade routes between China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. He points to lines as fine as hair. Here, along these roads, umbrellas traveled, foldable, decorated, durable, light enough not to trouble a horse, beautiful enough to impress an emperor. You touch an old model hanging from a beam. The silk is already yellowed, and the scent is of dry wood and old paint, but it still opens. It still sings when opened. This one, the man says, was one of the first to go to Naha in Okinawa. Made here, painted with fingers, 36 linen stitches, and a prayer embroidered, hidden under the top. You ask why the prayer was hidden. Because it was only for the sky to read. Historians still debate whether the Chinese umbrella directly influenced all East Asian models, or whether the invention was parallel, one of those poetic coincidence phenomena. But documents and artifacts suggest a clear influence, especially in folding styles, paper types, and the aesthetic. Fixation on perfect circularity. You visit a space where apprentices practice folding fabric over the structure. It's a silent dance between fingers and shadow. One mistake, and the paper tears. One harsh move, and the geometry is lost. But when everything fits, it's like watching a flower open with a yawn, dot, painted with a phoenix. The tones are fiery, but the motion is gentle. This one's going to Hanoi, he says. A gift for a poetry master. It will be used in a wedding. You ask, even though it's red. He smiles, especially because it is. You walk among them, hanging umbrellas, drying, curing from the varnish. Others folded, waiting for owners. Some with names written on the wood. Others with dates. Some with ideograms that simply say, for use in the next life. And you understand, here, the umbrella is not just an export, it's a legacy. You leave the village with a gesture you learned just recently, tilting the umbrella slightly to the left while making a small bow, a sign of respect, they say, and also a way to show that you've learned to walk with your own shadow. The road back feels quieter, but only because now you listen better. You return from the village of Chengdu with the faint impression that perhaps you've passed through a time that no longer belongs to you. Or maybe you simply stumbled into a pocket of reality where time flows more slowly, like molasses dripping from a jar, falling in wide intervals onto lotus leaves. Ahead of you, another village, smaller, perhaps more hidden. Here, they say, umbrellas are created not for protection or status, but for ritual, for dance, for tradition. As you enter, you immediately see what looks like a living exhibition of prints. Open umbrellas, dry in the sun, hand-painted with animals in soft colors and almost childlike lines. Turtles, cats, swallows, tigers with gentle expressions, and even, look at that, a frog that seems to smile wearily. A young artisan notices your interest. Ah, she says, the animals are ancient. Each one has its purpose. She points to a row of umbrellas with green turtles. These are for protection. The turtle is patient, long-lived, and never rushes. They say it attracts calm days. Next, a set with swallows in mid-flight. These are for travelers. The swallow always returns home. You observe a model with a white tiger painted with closed eyes as if meditating. The young woman explains, this one is for those who need quiet courage, not the kind that shouts, the kind that waits. There are also umbrellas with elephants, koi fish, and deer with blossoming antlers. Each animal carries a story, a wish, a superstition. The animals don't get wet, she remarks, because they live in umbrellas. You laugh, but realize that, somehow, that phrase makes more sense than it should. In a small square, children play with smaller models, decorated with pandas and rabbits. An elderly woman tells them stories, local legends, explaining how a deer became a constellation after sheltering from a storm beneath a sacred umbrella. You approach an older man who paints directly with his fingers. He doesn't use a brush. Why mediate, he asks. The ink should feel the skin. He's working on a rare model, an umbrella with a blue dragon amid clouds and swirls. But the dragon is smiling, not roaring, almost napping. This umbrella, he says, is for the days when you need courage, ... but also a nap. You feel like you might need exactly that. Historians still debate whether the practice of painting animals on umbrellas arose from mystical, educational, or purely aesthetic motives. Some believe the earliest images were to help children distinguish their belongings in large families. Others say they were secret codes between artists. Some even suggest certain painted animals repelled insects. There's no consensus, but everyone agrees these images became their own language, and that's what you feel, Hera. Village that communicates through illustration, where a frog umbrella means wait one more day before deciding, where a painted cat with closed eyes says take a nap before judging. A culture of portable, colorful, round advice. You find a bench in the shade of a tree. A group of older women is gathered there, embroidering protective covers for the painted umbrella. Small fabric sleeves with geometric patterns and short phrases. One of them hands you a cover. It's embroidered with the phrase, getting wet sometimes cleans more than staying dry. You understand? Or at least pretend to. And here, that's enough. Before you leave, you help a little girl paint a small umbrella with ducklings. She makes a mistake, gets upset. You say, maybe. The duck was just running. She smiles, and then you walk back to the main path with your own umbrella, still open even, though the sky now looks as clean as washed porcelain, and you think maybe the animal on your umbrella is still waiting to be revealed. Maybe it's there, hidden in the seams. You walk away from the animal village as if closing the last page of a children's storybook with a warm feeling in your chest and a lingering doubt about what was real and what was just the prolonged effect of floral tea. The road now slopes gently down through hills covered in tall grasses, where the wind hums in low, continuous notes, like a distracted monk whistling to his own steps. As you walk, you begin to notice closed umbrellas lined up along the path, resting like sleepy sentinels. Each one has a small paper tag tied to the handle. You approach. The tags have names and dates. Some include a brief note like solstice, sun, or drizzle during wedding. You continue along this silent trail of umbrellas until you reach an open square where people of all ages gather, each with a different umbrella. There is no rain, no hurry, just preparation, a kind of rehearsal or procession. An elderly man in a green robe approaches. "Will you join?" he asks. And you, by now, used to not understanding anything, yet accepting everything, say yes. He hands you a blue umbrella with mustard yellow details. A bit eccentric, but it feels just right for the moment. This procession, he explains, happens 4 times a year, once per season. There's no music, no narrator, just steps and shadow. Each person walks in line with the season they chose to represent. The umbrella, of course, is the season. You watch the others. Some walk with wide, confident strides, spring, perhaps. Others move in smooth, flowing motions, clearly summer. Some walk slowly, almost hesitantly, inevitably, autumn. And then there are those who barely move, gliding across the ground like serene ghosts winter. You choose your season and join the formation. The ground is made of light stone. The wind lightly lifts the edges of the umbrellas. And as everyone begins to walk, you realize it's as if the seasons themselves are dancing in silence. A climatic ballet choreographed by round shadows and hand-painted fabrics. There's a woman with an entirely black umbrella, decorated with golden dots like stars. She walks looking upward. A man with an orange umbrella spins completely every 7 steps. A child with a white umbrella simply hops from stone to stone, ignoring the rhythm band, yet seems to fit perfectly into the group. You feel the light weight of your umbrella in sync with your arm, the sound of silk slicing through the air, the scent of sun-warmed paint, and the gaze of a few onlookers who watch the procession without the slightest desire to applaud, because applauding would interrupt something sacred in the Ming Dynasty. Someone beside you whispers, "These processions marked the beginning of the harvest." Each person walked with the season they wished for the next cycle. It was superstition, of course, but also choreographed hope. Historians still debate whether these public rituals were disguised protests, spontaneous artistic expression, or simply another nostalgic invention of the present trying to dress the past in ceremonial silk. But one thing is certain. Every account describing these events uses words like serene, circular, and delightful to witness. The procession ends with everyone forming a circle of seasons. And then, without any signal, all open their umbrellas at once. The sound is like a field of flowers blooming under restrained thunder, a silent explosion, a painting in motion. You're in the middle of it, and for a moment you feel that if someone were looking down from above, from a balloon, a kite, or a particularly nosy cloud, they would see a great seasonal clock, marking time with shadow and color. After that, there are no words. Everyone simply walks away, slowly, as if the procession were just a segment of what they were already doing, walking through life. Under the season they chose to wear that day, you closed the blue and yellow umbrella, returning it with a gentle tap on the handle. The man in the green robe nods silently, and you continue your path, feeling that, for the first time, You've understood a little more about the passage of time, not by hours or minutes, but by steps and shadow. You walk away from the animal village as if closing the last page of a children's storybook, with a warm feeling in your chest and a lingering doubt about what was real and what was just the prolonged effect of floral tea. The road now slopes gently down through hills covered in tall grasses, where the wind hums in low, continuous notes, like a distracted monk whistling to his own steps. As you walk, you begin to notice closed umbrellas lined up along the path, resting like sleepy sentinels. Each one has a small paper tag tied to the handle. You approach. The tags have names and dates. Some include a brief note, like solstice sun or drizzle during wedding. You continue along this silent trail of umbrellas until you reach an open square where people of all ages gather, each with a different umbrella. There is no rain, no hurry, just preparation, a kind of rehearsal or procession. An elderly man in a green robe approaches. "Will you join?" he asks. And you, by now, used to not understanding anything, yet accepting everything, say yes. He hands you a blue umbrella with mustard yellow details. A bit eccentric, but it feels just right for the moment. This procession, he explains, happens 4 times a year, once per season. There's no music, no narrator, just steps and shadow. Each person walks in line with the season they chose to represent. The umbrella, of course, is the season. You watch the others. Some walk with wide, confident strides, spring, perhaps. Others move in smooth, flowing motions, clearly summer. Some walk slowly, almost hesitantly, inevitably autumn. And then there are those who barely move, gliding across the ground like serene ghosts winter. You choose your season and join the formation. The ground is made of light stone. The wind lightly lifts the edges of the umbrellas. And as everyone begins to walk, you realize it's as if the seasons themselves are dancing in silence. A climatic ballet choreographed by round shadows and hand-painted fabrics. There's a woman with an entirely black umbrella, decorated with golden dots like stars. She walks looking upward, as if following constellations. A man with an orange umbrella spins completely every 7 steps. A child with a white umbrella simply hops from stone to stone, ignoring the rhythm and yet seems to fit perfectly into the group. You feel the light weight of your umbrella in sync with your arm, the sound of silk slicing through the air, the scent of sun-warmed paint, and the gaze of a few onlookers who watch the procession without the slightest desire to applaud, because applauding would interrupt something sacred in the Ming dynasty. Someone beside you whispers. These processions marked the beginning of the harvest. Each person walked with the season they wished for the next cycle. It was superstition, of course, but also choreographed hope. Historians still debate whether these public rituals were disguised protest, spontaneous artistic expression, or simply another nostalgic invention of the present, trying to dress the past in ceremonial silk. But one thing is certain. Every account describing these events uses words like serene, circular, and delightful to witness. The procession ends with everyone forming a circle of seasons. And then, without any signal, all open their umbrellas at once. The sound is like a field of flowers blooming under restrained thunder, a silent explosion, a painting in motion. You're in the middle of it, and for a moment you feel that if someone were looking down from above, from a balloon, a kite, or a particularly nosy cloud, they would see a great seasonal clock marking time with shadow and color. After that, there are no words. Everyone simply walks away, slowly, as if the procession were just a segment of what they were already doing, walking through life. Under the season they chose to wear that day. You close the blue and yellow umbrella, returning it with a gentle tap on the handle. The man in the green robe nods silently, and you continue your path, feeling that for the first time. You've understood a little more about the passage of time, not by hours or minutes, but by steps and shadow. The next path feels older, more worn by footsteps than by years. You walk between rows of trees that creak softly as if exchanging secret stories. Ahead, you hear music not from instruments, but from feet on the ground, fabrics rustling, and umbrellas spinning like shy tops. You arrive at a clearing where a dance is taking place, but not the rehearsed or grand kind. This one is slow, circular, almost silent, as if the world is turning in slow motion. Each participant holds an umbrella open, of course, and moves to the rhythm of an imagined melody. A man with narrow eyes and thick eyebrows waves at you. "Would you like to dance with the season?" he asks, and you, having long since abandoned hesitation, simply say yes. He selects an umbrella for you, pale green, with hand-painted bamboo and droplets. "Spring," he says, but lazy. You step into the circle. There are no defined steps. What exists is a tacit understanding. Walk, spin, pause, tilt. Sometimes someone changes direction. Sometimes a child bursts into the center and spins alone. No one reprimands. Every movement is welcome, as long as it is gentle. The edges of the umbrellas touch briefly, like old friends greeting each other with their shoulders. The sound of fabric brushing is almost inaudible, but constant. A murmur of cotton. A woman dances with an orange umbrella decorated with maple leaves. "Autumn of memory," she says, when you ask what it means. She spins twice, forward and then backward, to remember and then forget. There is a man with a white umbrella decorated with silver snowflakes. He walks slowly, as if each step is measured in breaths. "Winter of forgiveness," he murmurs, barely opening his mouth. You, without knowing how, begin to move as well. You spin the umbrella once, then twice, walk in a gentle arc, pause, bow your head, and then you realize you are dancing with the rain that doesn't fall. You are celebrating the weather that has passed, that will come, or that perhaps will never come. Someone begins to hum a melody. No lyrics, just sounds. The others follow. In a few minutes, there is a light, fragile, but united singing, and the umbrellas accompany spinning, swaying, dancing to it. Is a choreography that doesn't need to be seen to be understood, just felt. "Long ago," explains one of the dancers, "we performed this dance at the end of each harvest cycle to thank the rain that came and the one that didn't come too." Historians still debate whether these umbrella dances were peasant rituals, disguised spiritual practices, or simply poetic ways to keep the community united. But pictorial records show people dancing with umbrellas for centuries, always in circles, always in silence, always in shadow. You dance until you lose track of time. The umbrella in your hand feels lighter, as if it floats on its own. The whole world slows down to accompany you, and you give thanks, not aloud, but with a gentle twist of the wrist. In the end, everyone says goodbye with a wave and a final spin. The umbrellas are closed in unison. The sound is like falling dry leaves. You remain a little longer, watching the participants return to their homes with lighter steps than when they arrived. And you think the umbrella dances too. It just needs someone to hold it with care. You close yours and continue on your way, as if you had just participated in a ceremony that no one invented, but that everyone always knew how to perform. The final bend of the trail brings you to the foot of a hill draped in moss and silence. Here, the world seems to have forgotten how to move. No wind, no footsteps only, the sigh of ancient trees and a faint aroma of aged wood mingled with cool tea. Google Trattorata top. The hill rests a small monastery, almost like a closed umbrella curved inward, discreet, yet still sheltering something precious. The stone steps leading up are worn, not by haste, but by devotion. You ascend slowly, feeling time slip along the edges of your thoughts. The temple gate stands open. Inside, a solitary figure, an elderly monk, hands folded in his lap, eyes half closed, as if peering into the depths of his own silence. He doesn't move as you enter, merely breathes, as if the air itself were centuries old. You sit before him, waiting for words that may never come. But after a few minutes, he nods toward a corner of the hall. There, beneath a light linen cloth, rests an umbrella. You approach reverently, lifting the fabric with both hands. And there it is, the monastery's last silk umbrella. Its frame is of bamboo, so fine it seems woven. The silk, dyed a pale yellow, nearly white, bears the marks of time like peaceful scars. Embroidered designs, now faded. Clouds, mountains, perhaps a crenets, hard to tell. The handle bears inscriptions you can't read, but somehow you feel you don't need to. You lift it carefully. It opens with a soft sound, like a distant wind chime. And in that instant, something changes. The light streaming through the window seems to bend over the fabric. Time, that old trickster, appears to pause and sit beside you. The monk finally speaks. This umbrella has never left the temple. It was crafted not to shield from rain, but from excess, from noise, from desire, from fear. You sit with it open, for a while enveloped in silence. The monk serves a bowl of tea without a word. You accept. It's warm, tasting of earth and leaf. They say this was the first umbrella made solely for contemplation, he continues. No practical function, no vanity, just the curve, the bamboo, the silk, and patience. Historians still debate whether such umbrellas truly existed or are symbolic. Inventions of Zen monks to illustrate the importance of form-filled emptiness. Some suggest the contemplation umbrella is merely a metaphor for a mind shielded from impulses. But here, sitting beneath this silent peace, you feel no need for answers. You close it slowly. And as the umbrella folds upon itself, it's as if the entire world blinks once just enough to awaken. You thank the monk with a nod, which he returns with a gentle sigh, as if affirming that the rain will come and pass. Descending the hill, the sky remains gray but calm. The world continues. Leaves resume their rustle. A branch snaps in the distance, and your feet, firm on the ground, know they walk not just under the protection of an object, but with the understanding that even rain has its time to cease. You glance at your umbrella, dirty, stained, painted, spun, danced, awkward, but yours, and it opens, still, with the same patience as when it all began.